Do you have any invisible students in your classroom? No, obviously not students that are literally invisible, but students who are there, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they're not necessarily being seen either by their peers or by you. This video will address some ways that you can fix that. Hello and welcome to Dear Teachers, the weekly show here on YouTube designed to help you promote self-care and a healthy work-life balance in the teaching profession. I'm your host, Sarah, and I'm so excited for today's topic. When we think about the time that we are spending working with students, monitoring classroom behavior, even having meetings with other teachers and school staff, what I've kind of come to realize is that there's a few things we focus on. We focus on some of our best and brightest students because they blow us away with their great work and they just really stand out to us. We also might think a lot more about the students who cause behavior problems for our class and disrupt our classroom management. They're the frequent flyers that we often have to remind about the class procedures or redirect back to what they're supposed to be doing, prevent conflict and other frustrations from happening. We also might be thinking a lot of students who need those additional supports, who maybe have a IEP or 504 plan and need special accommodations that we provide. But who are we leaving out? I think there's a large group of students who are respectful, quiet, who always do what they're supposed to, not necessarily super vocal in class, either when asked for participation or just among their peers, but yet they're doing the right thing and they show up. Have you been overlooking those students? Definitely in the midst of running back and forth between putting out fires in some of the classes that have a few more challenging discipline issues or behavior issues, it can be easy to not necessarily forget about those students, but not give them the attention they deserve. Partially because I know in school I was definitely that quiet kid who always did what they were supposed to do, as well as I've seen so many examples of incredible kids who often don't get the attention they deserve because they don't necessarily stand out. They're nice, they're good kids, and I want us to shift that a little bit, to focus more on building a relationship with these students who may not feel like they're being seen by others. I've got 3 key strategies for how to do this. First up, a simple thing that can be done, especially if your school requires teachers to be in the hallway as students are transitioning to classes, is to personally greet your students at the door. When you're going to your door to greet students, you don't just stand there, you don't talk to another coworker. As students walk into your classroom, say hello to them. Now, sometimes there's too many of them who are coming in all at once to individually say all of their names, but to just say, hello guys, welcome, happy Tuesday, happy Wednesday, whatever the day of the week is. And that's a way to help them feel welcome, but especially for the quieter students, if you can, really address them by name, say hello, whatever your name is, how are you doing today? To make that personal connection so they feel seen. That's important. And I would, especially as students were coming in, I'd say hello, but especially if there was, one of these students coming in, I would be sure to say their name because that's a way that you can form that meaningful connection. Especially if your question does elicit an answer, that's really cool too, because then you can have more conversation back and forth. Another thing that I have tried to do is to talk to every student at least once per day. Now, this is very difficult at the secondary level because you might only have 45 minutes with a group of 30 students or more even. And when you break that down, that's really not a lot of time. So it's definitely not always possible. That's why I try to start with the greeting. In my situation at my past school, I had 4 65-minute classes, all with around 30 students or 32 students. And this was a goal of mine. Now, it did not always happen. If you are doing mostly direct instruction, this is going to be very difficult because oftentimes where these conversations happen is one-on-one as you're walking around and helping students or just checking in with them. In my Spanish teaching, I taught half Spanish, half social studies in the class. And in my Spanish teaching, I implemented something called the grid method. I will link a video below if you're curious about what it is. But basically, it requires a lot of work up front. and getting your unit set up, but then students work more at their own pace, which means you are actually not providing direct instruction during much of the unit, besides a couple key places. This meant that I was able to actually spend time talking with my students, walk around the room, see what's going on, have fun with them, help them out. It was one of the best things I did for myself as a teacher, and I think the students also enjoyed it because it made it a lot more laid back. It was so great to hear some of my students say, Mrs. Satani, when I go to your class, I just feel so relaxed. I know this is a calm place, and that makes me so happy because that's the environment I wanted to create. If you can, maybe even it's just once a week that you try to do a lesson without direct instruction so you can actually interact with them. Those are meaningful connections. If you are unsure about what you might want to say to these students, try to notice different things about them that you could maybe bring up a conversation about. So of course you could ask them about weekend plans or maybe what they did the past weekend if it's a Monday or a Friday. Maybe if they're wearing a shirt about like a certain movie or something, you could ask them about it. Talk to them about the work that they're doing. Lastly, give them personal appreciation or compliments. Now this can happen in a variety of different ways. You could do a more formal student of the day type of thing, where you have one student of the day each day and there's some special privileges. With that, I have written notes to students in the past, and number one, it makes me feel great writing it because that's words of affirmation is a love language of mine. I love to compliment others. So doing that was really fun for me, as well as I think meaningful for the students. And even students you wouldn't expect, they save those notes, which is super cool because you know that they're going to refer back to it and look at it sometimes. As well as, verbal compliments. This can also be during that time where you're talking to students more one-on-one. But just to really go the extra mile and say, this is incredible. I loved your project and I think it is so beautiful what you did here. Or I just am so impressed because these ideas are really creative. Or even one I've used a lot is to just say, look, I know you're on the quiet side, but I just want to let you know I see you and I'm really happy you show up every day and you put the work in. Like that means a lot to me. So these words of affirmation are so important. Again, we want to make sure these students are being seen. And I think the bottom line is we want our students to at least have one staff member who they feel comfortable going to if there is an issue that comes up, and to have a place where they really feel welcome. By doing some of these strategies, I think it maybe would be likely to be your class, and that your class is a place where they feel like they belong, which I think is the greatest thing ever. Obviously, just in terms of, the warm fuzzy feeling, especially in more serious situations, such as if students have dealt with trauma, they want that safe space where they belong, and that's going to help them start to heal from some of that trauma and be able to learn and, fully develop their brain. We'll get into the trauma stuff in another video, but I really hope you're able to try some of these with your students. If you'd like to check any of our past episodes of Dear Teacher, we've got quite a few, and you can also subscribe to the channel if you've not yet done so. We'll see you next time. Bye.